and she deserves to be made fun of. Not as an immigrant, but she's a piece of shit, and how dare her think she can make a speech or something.
Cars now steer themselves.
Hold on.
What is that?
This is hilarious.
Cars now steer themselves through our cities. Robots hold steady hands in
Rowboats hold steady hands. Ain't no way.
through our cities. Robots hold steady hands in the operating room.
In the
And
breaking room.
drones are redefining the future of war. Innovations of first-generation humanoids, factory automation,
Breaking.
and autonomous vehicles have surged from private sector investment.
That's crazy. No. Um, hmm. This one. This one blew the hell out of me, bro. Bitch. Taylor Rain spills all the tea. Second.
Welcome, Taylor Lorenz. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. So, you released a definitely not at all controversial article on Wired. Nobody's talking about
She
it.
has a way of staying out of the limelight.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just her thing.
So, just to give everybody some of the basics, there's this Democratic Creator Incubator program called Chorus, and Brian Tyler Cohen, I believe one of the person co-founded it, and it's funded by this liberal dark money group called the 1630 Fund. And I highly recommend you guys go read the entire thing. Taylor, the first thing I want to ask you is, so apparently they can't acknowledge the group. The people in the group can't acknowledge the group. So there's no transparency, there's no disclosure. Some of those creators have come out and they basically said, like, well, we can acknowledge the group, and we did acknowledge the group. So, thing. Taylor, the first thing I want to ask you is, so apparently they can't acknowledge the group. The people in the group can't acknowledge the group. So there's no transparency, there's no disclosure. Some of those creators have come out and they basically said, like, well, we can acknowledge the group, and we did acknowledge the group. So what is your reaction to those creators saying that?
Okay, I think you
They're doing this thing that's actually kind of a sleight of hand, sleight of word. Basically, what they're doing is they're acknowledging the public group. So Chorus itself has always been public. I mean, it was quite literally launched with a big.
boom. There you go. That's it. That's it. That's all. Like that's all the creators have been saying. It's public. What the hell are we on about? If it's about the 1630 fucking fun group, you don't like it and you want more transparency, let's talk about that. How about why are we shitting on the actual content creators that are actually just pushing chorus? It's public. What the hell are we on about? If it's about the 1630 fucking fun group, you don't like it and you want more transparency, let's talk about that. How about why are we shitting on the actual content creators that are actually just pushing chorus?
And give access to their creators and be like, we're so excited to launch this program and don't pay attention to that little funding, who's funding us, whatever. When they didn't, and instead they went like ballistic and they're accusing me of being.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this now. Looking up her content in the past, Taylor Lorenz is super pro-Palestine, super about Gaza. And if you look at the comment sections, and all of these content creators, or specifically David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen, on why people are upset, they're claiming that fucking Chorus is not allowing them to talk about Gaza or Israel, although both of them have had statements on it, have spoken on the topic. Whether you agree with their opinions on it or not, they've spoken about it. And I feel that was one of two claims. One claim was you can never talk about it. Everybody and their mama knew that she was talking about Chorus. Dark Money Group Chorus. That's what she was talking about. And it's always been because she has a way of not actually giving us actual words as a journalist that everybody assumed that she was talking about Chorus in general. It's already fucking stupid. She should have been more specific about the 1630 fund. That should have been the target. Chorus should have never came out of your mouth. if you're upset that Brian Tyler Cohen is taking funds from the 1630, a liberal group that's doing nothing but just providing actual funding to an actual program that can actually help people with smaller content creators who actually want to be to the level of a Cal Kalinske or a Destiny or a fucking David Pakman, and probably better. But that'll never happen if Democrats or liberals continue to do stupid shit like this. Let's just fucking tear down the entire fucking thing. Charlie Kirk is somewhere laughing his ass off.
Being funded by Russia and like have all these conspiracies about my like investigative journalism fellowship. And like, I actually think it's, I was talking to another reporter about this yesterday. It makes it seem like they have even more to hide because their response has been so deranged.
Yeah, probably the most disgusting thing that I saw was from Brian Tyler Cohen, who was like, pulled one clip of Candace Owens being like, well, I respect that she says what she believes or something like that. In conversation with Tucker Carlson, they're like, well, she's friends with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. I thought, and again, I thought it was very revealing because if there was genuinely a problem with your reporting, then you say, okay, well, here's the actual contract. Here's what she got wrong. You know, here's how I can prove what she got wrong. And instead it was all of this misdirection of conflating things, of personally attacking you.
No, it's not on them. She didn't post the fucking contract. She's going off word of mouth. Post the entire contract. Post it. If you're going to Chorus is doing some fucked up shit in the background and you have the contract to prove it, post the fucking contract. I don't want to hear bits and pieces. I want to see it in the fucking contract that they are not allowed to talk about Israel. It needs to be that. They are not allowed to talk about Gaza. Or they can't talk about this, but they can talk about that in the fucking contract. Because that's the main problem. That they are not allowed to talk about Israel. It needs to be that. They are not allowed to talk about Gaza. Or they can't talk about this, but they can talk about that in the fucking contract. Because that's the main problem. That's the beef. These content creators are responding because journalists and people are
engaged in. And so to me, it was very revealing. I don't know how you can call yourself someone who is even left of center and not at least grapple with the ethical and moral questions that are raised by accepting secret dark super PAC money.
Well, they don't even want to deal with those questions. Like they just want to sort of sling mud and make these claims. And, you know, something I have said from the jump is if we got something wrong, reach out. Wired has a corrections policy. Like, show us any evidence that what we reported is not fact. It's been over a week. There's not a single correction on the story. And make these claims. And, you know, something I have said from the jump is if we got something wrong, reach out. Wired has a corrections policy. Like, show us any evidence that what we reported is not fact. It's been over, you know, implying that the term dark money is racist. Like, that's how.
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding. Like that literally. Like it's like parody level. And
that was the other one that got me, is they had to not disclose their secret dark money funding to protect trans creators in red states. I was like, what this? Okay, what are we doing?
like David Pakman and Brett, like these are people with like what?
So in the reporting, just to lay out for everybody out there. So according to reporting, there are restrictive clauses in the contract. For example, they have to funnel all bookings with lawmakers and political leaders through Chorus. So it's almost like giving over some semblance of your autonomy and your independence to this group. You can't support or oppose politicians without Chorus's approval, which I thought, when I read that one, I was like, I don't know why more people are talking about this particular portion, because that seems crazy to me, to say, I mean, that's insane. So why don't you talk a little bit about the restrictive clauses that you came across?
Yeah, there's a bunch of restricted clauses, like sort of some of what you just mentioned. They sort of narrow some of it by saying like with Chorus funds, right? So like, oh, we don't care if you do things without Chorus funds, but the idea is that this is the funding that you're receiving to like make a living, and you're investing a huge amount of time in this. So like, it's very silly, sort of like these separations that they try to make. You know, they also have restrictions on sort of how you can talk about other people in the program, and this is something that creators in the group chats that we got screen recordings of were also debating. For instance, say one of your the colleagues in the program or several colleagues in the program push misinformation about a war or something, and you want to speak negatively about that. Like theoretically, under this document, it appears that they would not be able to criticize the other members of the program. And you know, there's just a few things like that as well that just to me as a journalist, like I would never sign an agreement like this because clearly there is some, you know,
I'm gonna need her. Okay, so here's the thing you can't pull up a contract to verify this. She's gotten stories, and I'm assuming she's gotten contracts from other content creators who are part of Chorus. I believe she had a conversation with Destiny talking about how they don't feel comfortable with the contract. So here, look at my contract, and you report it. I'm kind of finding it really hard to believe that she's honestly doing this for some greater good. When I look at the individuals that are being attacked or the content creators that are being harassed by this entire thing, I can't help but to think like, whoa, is this like a conservative heat-seeking missile that nobody saw coming? The majority of the comments are talking, especially in David Pakman's videos, was that he's not talking about Gaza, or he's not talking about Israel, the Gaza situation. That's the majority of the issues here. And my feeling upon that is like, if that's your game, if that was your goal, then you're successful. But let's not pretend that you actually give a damn about dark money and you just want content creators to talk about what you want to talk about. You want content creators to disclose contracts the way you want them to be disclosed. For me, it's like I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, okay, Brian Tyler Cohen is and David Pakman, or Brian Tyler Cohen, has this group called Chorus. They're being funded by the 1630 group. The goal of Chorus is to help build up platforms for other democratic voices so they can be heard. And the first major fucking thing that happens is people try to tear that shit down. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. And like, I'm surprised Cal Kalinske, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of those interviews where she doesn't get any pushback or any sort of actual hard questions. They already have it down. I'm going to ask you these questions. They probably already rehearsed it. Like,
You are agreeing to certain terms that I think that anybody who considers himself like a honest journalist would not do, or at least certainly not do without disclosure.
Yeah. They should never sign that contract. Even if they don't enforce the things that are on the paper there, you should never sign the contract. In fact, in the article you say they didn't let one person's lawyer redline the contract. They basically were like, no, we're not allowing your lawyer to look at it and make adjustments and send it back to us. Basically, like, take it or leave it, which is very heavy-handed for this sort of thing. I mean, that's like very authoritarian for these sorts of negotiations, right?
Fucking shit. Hold on, bro. Let me. This is. I want to see the actual. I want to get a video. We already know. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. David Pakman's panic response. Democratic influencers, including David Pakman, exposed for taking dark money. Liberal influencers continue to lie and gaslight about their dark money. Liberal influencers, I just read that one. Dark money funding Dems influencers exposed. What is it? BTC and this is the Destiny one. David Pakman exposed. David Pakman exposed and humiliated in dark money scandal. Exposing the dark money machine. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. Exposed dark money for it. Look at this. PBD, conservatives, Republicans. Like, this is crazy. Great job. Give them more ammo. Great job, Cal Kalinske and Crystal Ball. Let's just push this fucking narrative that David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen are bad for the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, you're not doing anything but doing what everybody else is doing, including me, and just sitting behind a fucking computer screen and talking to people. Actually, you can't even talk to people because Crystal doesn't want to talk to anybody. First time you get the chance to talk to an official, what are you doing here? Why are you this?
Former Playboy executive, I've never heard of her. Hosts the Occupy Democrats podcast. At least it has Democrats in the title where you kind of know what you're getting.
Who's listening?
I don't know.
Occupied by Democrats?
Barrett Adair, a content creator who runs an American Girl doll themed pro DNC meme account.
Here's $8,000 a month.
Seems made up. God, I mean, and for a fraction of the reach that, like, I can't imagine that they're getting great bang for their buck there. I haven't heard of most of these people. Suzanne Lambert, who has called herself a Regina George liberal. This is fucking horrible.
And I'm going to be like, I won't endorse Zoran until I have a constructive conversation with him.
And community-based constructive conversation. The folks that were, I guess, in this kind of group of influencers that this thing called the Chorus Creator Incubator Program, funded by a powerful liberal dark money group called the 1630 Fund. They included, I don't know what that means. The program kicked off last month, and creators involved were told by Chorus that over 90 influencers were set to take part. Creators told Wired that the contract stipulated they'd be kicked out and essentially cut off financially if they even so much as acknowledged that they were a part of the program. Some creators.
Okay, so that's obviously not true. Again, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about people not doing shit in good faith. And it's disappointing that the Majority Report is doing it, because the Majority Report I thought was actual fucking legit. It's really fucking disappointing to see them do that. When you're talking about this, be specific. Is your issue with 1630 or is it with Chorus? If it's with 1630, the conversation should be more about transparency and the accepting of dark money, not the condemnation of fucking Chorus. That's what the conversation should be. You can have a conversation, an honest conversation, about Democrats or other Democrats taking dark money from random ass fucking groups. Although the 1630 has been known of supporting other positive shit like reproductive rights and other positive things that any other Democratic person would actually want to support. But like, what I'm confused about is why do people keep giving us and telling people shit without context? What is the issue? Is it the 1630 group or is it Chorus? We know for sure that you can talk about Chorus. Chorus is public. We know for sure because Taylor has not yet provided any fucking proof that these people, individuals in the fucking group, cannot talk about Gaza or can only talk about the shit that Chorus allows them to do. That hasn't been proven yet. There's nothing in the contract that says that. And if she's going based off the people who gave her the contract, the people who gave her the contract don't even understand the contract. This is confusing because, like, if this said this shit started in June, Chorus. Ever since then, David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen, or at least Brian Tyler Cohen, and some of the individuals that's on there have talked about Israel, have talked about Gaza. So I'm confused on who's telling the truth or who's telling half truths and who's just feeding us misinformation or not giving us all the information. And the list goes on, like you have, and you have so many Democratic influencers that want to do this so that they can build their fucking platforms. And here's the majority with their big ass page, the Majority Report, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball. They're all just falling in suit and shitting on it. Like, imagine wanting to be the next Adam Mockler signing up for a program, and the next thing you know, your fucking favorite content creator, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, Majority Report, The Vanguard, all these individuals are shitting on it. All this company is trying to do is give you the tools to actually be successful. Not one time has it been proven that Chorus is telling somebody what they can and cannot do with their own content. Let's be for real. Let's be honest. This is about Gaza. This is about people not talking enough about Gaza. Not the fact that they haven't talked about it. They're just not talking about Gaza enough. It's not satisfactory to them. You have to talk about Gaza consistently 24/7. Brian Tyler Cohen and David Pakman specifically are more so reporting of what's going on in the country, not just what's going on outside of the country or foreign. You would hear, if you go on their pages, you would hear less about what's going on the outside unless it's connected to Donald Trump. That's the majority of shit that they're reporting. If you follow their pages, there are thousands upon thousands of content creators who talk about Palestine and the genocide that's going on in Palestine right now, in Gaza right now. There are thousands of content creators that are talking about that on a daily basis, that you can easily go find them, click the subscribe button, and support their fucking platform. But instead of doing that, people rather gather together like a bunch of crickets and just fucking chirp in the comment sections of these content creators and bitch and moan and complain as if it's going to change anything. These content creators have ever since then gone on to make more videos, and while your comments get drowned out talking about me, talking about Gaza. If the goal was to make people talk about Gaza, you're failing miserably to the people in those comment sections. To Taylor Lorenz, you failed miserably at what you're trying to do, because you're also going around trying to tell people that, trying to dispel the people who are angry at these content creators. You're trying to say, hey, I didn't mean it that way.
Clauses in the contract. influencers included in communication about the program, and in some cases on an onboarding session for those receiving payments from the 1630 fund included Olivia Giuliana, the centrist Gen Z influencer who spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, Lauren Peretra, a former Playboy executive. I've never heard of her. Hosts the Occupy Democrats podcast. At least it has Democrats in the title where you kind of know what you're getting.
Who's listening?
I don't know.
Occupied by Democrats?
Barrett Adair, a content creator who runs an American Girl doll themed pro-DNC meme account.
Here's $8,000.
We got a clip of Hassan that someone sent to us reacting to it. I am proud to say that the majority report, I don't think we were approached, right? I mean, we would have
Maybe Sam laughed at it.
Yeah, I mean, or it got lost in junk email and we would have never responded to it anyway. But in terms of like, you know, calling yourself independent media and then taking a bunch of money, this was our same critique of TYT, who then accused us of being a part of this like
So we have advertisers.
group because we have advertisers.
That we actually like are paid to announce the connection on the show as a part of the advertisement.
Right. And like, but that was their kind of branding of independent is undercut by the Peter Thiel money from both like these exploitative Medicare Advantage things and also Polymarket. So, but that's even somehow still more independent than taking money like directly from a Democratic firm and then saying you can't disclose it too, because it's one thing to read an ad for Medicare Advantage and like, all right, people can look into it and see how shady this plan is, but you're reading the ad. This is just a subsidy that really affects your coverage that you're literally not allowed to disclose.
It's actually taking creators
I hate these people. I hate them because like I want to see the contract. I just want to see it plain as day. I just want to see a contract where it states these content creators. Oh, sorry. You cannot disclose that you are working for Chorus, or you cannot report on Gaza. You can only report on what the fuck I say you can report on. I want that. I want to see that. That's what I want to see.
under their wing, so they know how to properly post thumbnails and descriptions that are going to get engagement. This is just about best practices, and I would love somebody to give me an $8,000 a month retainer to teach me about how to do thumbnails. Please, as long as you don't have to say like, oh yeah, actually.
No, you stupid fuck. They're actually trying to build something. It's not just about fucking tools. This is not just a fucking program to be like, here you go, and then leave. No, this is not that shit you pay for, a promotion you pay for on YouTube. No, this is a fucking, hey, they're trying to build something. Chorus is trying to be an organization that's going to assist and boost on social media. The fact that you guys are sitting there laughing in the background like a bunch of fucking animals is fucking crazy to me. Cackling like fucking hyenas because you feel like this is fucking funny. Meanwhile, while you guys are enjoying this, salivating over it, getting clicks and views over this, there are people who are actually small-time creators who actually are trying to actually get to a certain level. Looking at this like, well, fuck. Now, if I say I'm a part of Chorus, I'm going to get hate mail. I'm going to be shitted on. Even though I'm talking about Gaza, because I'm a part of Chorus, now I'm a bad guy. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, this shit annoys me.
It's all the people who supported Palestine who are responsible for what's going on now.
So Hassan reacted to this.
Yes.
Here's his take.
Say then all the people noted in the article should just say Israel bad. What do you see these shit Dem Party defenders doing? More their audiences turn on them. I think they're just like actively actively try to defend their honest intentions. They're going to say like, no, we didn't do this because of money. We did it. They just gave us money for free, and you're stupid.
So I'm aware of
remember,
that.
a lot of this stuff is just like parasocial.
But it doesn't matter because I want to make sure my audience hears from me about this. Now, the most important thing to say is that the idea behind this group is exactly what I've been advocating for years. For years I've been saying.
I mean, I will say, it's not very surprising to me, at least, that like there are a lot of left content creators on the independent media side, some of which are very popular, myself included, Chapo Trap House, Majority Report. And I don't think these guys went to them at all. One must ask the question, why? Why is it, Perhaps it's because if you have a truly anti-establishment opinion, it's not just like marketing, then it's not likely that you are going to have billionaires that fund you through dark money groups so that you can actively demand that they no longer...
Bam. This is what it's about. That's what it's about. It's about not being approached, period. If Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball was approached by Chorus, they'll probably be like Brian Tyler Cohen, David Backman trying to explain it because they'll actually have contracts in their hands and stating that's going to be completely opposite of what the framing of it is. It's not about it's more so about the framing of the article. You're framing as if these content creators are the devil. That's what the framing is doing.
Longer be billionaires. This is not happening.
Left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does. The right has won even arguably presidential elections.
Yeah, I think they're also saying Yeah, this is the argument. This is the meta. Well, the Republicans do this too, and if we got to fight fire with fire, this is how we got to do it.
Ready to parry.
That's what's wrong. Zero idea.
Doubt it, but let's see. Exposing attack?
Zero idea. Let's talk about it. Now, I'm assuming that the Bitchuration Room, Francesca's also going to be on board with this.
Why did you think that this was an important story to write about the dark money that is funding some Democratic influencers?
Sure. So I have reported extensively on influence schemes, like you mentioned, in my best-selling book, not to be the promo girl, but Extremely Online, which is a history of the content creator industry. I write extensively about political influence and just influence schemes generally. I've reported on, I covered the first Trump campaign back in 2016 on the campaign trail. I was in the room at the Hilton the night that he was elected with all of the other right-wing influencers. I was at the Deplorable, their event that they all celebrated. So I've been covering the rise of right-wing influence operations for a long time. And I've also covered some left-wing ones. So I covered, for instance, Biden briefing, TikTokers about the war in Ukraine. I've covered, the FDA or CDC, I can't remember, the government organization working, in 2021 to push the COVID vaccines with influencers, like all of these different initiatives, like public health initiatives. And I've written a lot about their role in elections. I wrote a lot about, the ways Democrats were leveraging, or really not leveraging very effectively, online influence throughout Kamala Harris's campaign. So this is something that's about, I would say probably 80% of what I do is report on the right and the far right, but then, I of course cover Democrats too. And this is interesting to me because there's been a lot of money from the donor world flowing into the influencer space. I think finally, after losing several cycles over, the Democrats have recognized the internet. They're like, wait a minute, who are all these people on? Do we need to go on podcasts? Like, they're starting to realize it. And so these donors are reading these New York Times headlines about groups like Chorus, for instance, which Ken Bensinger announced in the New York Times months ago, and was like, and they're pouring money into these things. And we have yet to sort of see how these programs are structured, how they play out, who's operating them, who's funding them, et cetera. Teddy Schleifer has done some great work. Kat at the Washington Post has done some great work. There's many reporters covering this. I know I'm like a lightning rod, so when I cover it, like there's drama, but like I'm not actually the only one that has even written about these sorts of schemes. But I thought this was a really interesting. I thought this was a really relevant one because it's been a very high course, has been very high profile since it's launched.
And so it is about this, what they call themselves like a creator incubator program, co-founded by Brian Tyler Cohen, and who is the other person?
There's Stuart Perlmutter, I think, co-founded it. There's a group of them that sort of co-founded it together. Brian Tyler Cohen is definitely like the main, he's sort of the public face of a lot of their efforts.
Right. And so what you found out, and I think this has been sort of part of the, some of the influencers who were named or pushing back on, you found out that actually they weren't allowed to disclose that much about Chorus, and certainly not about,
So let me clear this up. I think you're getting confused. So one thing that they've done is very successfully is try to conflate Chorus, which has always been public. Again, read about their launch in the New York Times. I've also done public reporting on Chorus. I wrote another story about them a couple months ago. Chorus has never been a secret. This funding scheme was not reported. And their ties to the 1630 Fund, this very, very big liberal dark money group, was never reported. So when these influencers say, well, I've always been able, look, here I am on the Chorus website. Yeah, no one's disputing that your affiliation with Chorus wasn't public, but you accepting.
But that's the problem. Your article wasn't clear. The article was not fucking clear. Like, you should not have named Chorus, period. If you're upset about 1630, let's talk about 1630. Why bring up Chorus? You just confused everybody for no reason.
Up to $8,000 a month, that is what was not disclosed. And signing a contract that has various clauses in it, that was not reported on before. And so what they're doing is they're getting online and they're sort of trying to conflate that so that people who don't really know and probably didn't read the article are seeing this and they're like, well, I thought this was always public.
Right.
Not the part that we reported. If it was public, it wouldn't be news. And I actually thought that they would. I'm shocked to this day that they didn't circumvent my story and kill my story by just when I reached out to the Wake of Citizens United, as a lot of these big dark money groups is. And dark money just means like there's not a lot of disclosure. So we don't know, like there's people that give millions of dollars to these groups. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their motivations are. There's just not transparency. So overall, Democrats have always actually traditionally.
Can we get to what's the problem?
Said that these groups are a bad thing because they overwhelmingly help the right, like the right. The Koch network and all that, like they traffic in dark money all the time. 1630 Fund sort of emerged as a liberal response to that, and they've given lots of money. I think it was according to Politico, it was like $400 million they distributed in 2020. They've really gotten a lot of power since Trump's first term.
Almost as like in a reaction to Citizens United, but not trying to overturn Citizens United, but use the very methods that the right does, which is dark money groups, to kind of fight fire with fire, right? To do the exact same thing. And
on a smaller scale, of course, because the right, it's nothing compared to what the right has, but yes.
Yes. And so, I think there's a lot of questions I have, but I do think that maybe let's just get out like the things that we've heard, like, oh, this story wasn't fact checked, this is wrong, What was the fact checking process for your Wired piece? And I know there have not been corrections issues.
No, there are no corrections on the story. I know. I love this idea that Wired is just like my personal blog that I just publish on. The story went through the same editorial review that Wired is known for. It had many different editors looking at it. It went through legal review. It went through everything. Every fact is sort of substantiated by reporting material. We don't just have the contracts, like we mentioned this in the story, but this is backed up by Zoom call recordings, text messages, emails, like internal emails, messages where the creators are themselves discussing the nature of the contract with each other, letters that they sent to the company. Like we have a lot, and so we gather all that reporting material and put together a story. Now I think a lot of people, especially the young ones, not to be, I'm so old, but on TikTok, like they're used to this like receipts, like drama tube culture, and they're like, post the receipts, like post the Zoom call, post the text messages, post the contracts. We can't do that without revealing our sources, and that would be horrible and detrimental, and we would never do that. So when journalism outlets, and I think this is a huge problem that we're seeing, where people don't trust journalism outlets because they don't trust the reporters to have verified sources, right? And so they think, well, if you're not posting the contracts, then you have something to hide. What we have said from the jump is that we would love for these creators, the small parts of the contract that the creators have posted have actually validated our reporting, but we don't know if the contracts are watermarked by spacing. They have identifying info in them in some cases, so we can't.
People were getting, we're getting different. Some people were getting 8,000 a month, and some people were definitely not getting 8,000 a month.
Right. There's different tiers, although I think there's commonality. We do have several contracts from several tiers, but yeah, it's just, we can't post our source material, guys. That's unfortunately not like how journalism is. But I would encourage these creators to post it. If they want to really refute it, then I encourage them to, post whatever they would like.
So the question around Chorus is, yes, some people were very open about it. I've talked to people who were part of the program.
Open about Chorus.
Yes.
They were not open about this program, which has never been reported on.
So the actual, like the culling of the 90 influencers, interesting. I've been told that it was to protect the identity of some of the people if they were like creators in red states. Let's put that aside.
What to protect the identity? Like the point is, you're taking undisclosed political money.
Now, here's my question: is did they know? Because if you're participating in this program, were the creators told, here's where we get our funding?
So in the contract, it mentions
Thank you. That's actually a good fucking question. She doesn't. I don't think Taylor Lorenz understands the fucking impact of what she's actually doing to the other content creators that just want to build
the funding, stuff. And actually, we, there's one creator who's been on TikTok recently and which I didn't, he's not my source. I know everybody is sort of saying this, that he's my source and everything. He actually has some level of security clearance, and he received this offer, and he's been on TikTok talking about that he had a lawyer review it. And these lawyers have, a lot of these influencers generally have lawyers and agents and managers and stuff. But he was saying that he couldn't accept the contract because with security clearance, you don't know the people, with this funding structure, you didn't know who's funding you. And so he could potentially lose his security clearance because what if it's some foreign actor? What if it's whatever, I don't know if it would be a foreign actor.
So that's why they didn't accept.
Well, exactly. It's because there wasn't enough transparency around that. And so, do I think some creators honestly just read the contract and didn't sign it very much? Potentially. But what I would say to those creators is that you knew that you were accepting money, and you knew that money was a politically affiliated money, which you didn't disclose. And I think anytime you have influencers accepting money without disclosure, no matter what, it's bad. And anytime you have influencers accepting money for some political purposes, and you're also not disclosing that money, I think that that's a huge disservice, especially when you're a content creator that's positioning yourself as a news source or a journalist online. Because I will tell you, as a journalist, you have to disclose your funding. Otherwise, imagine I'm taking tens of thousands of dollars from some political group. People
Wait, is reporting on news journalism now? Like if I was to make TikTok videos and I was just to cover a bunch of shit that Trump does, am I a journalist? Do I have to abide by the same ethics?
have the right to know that. I can claim all day, okay, it doesn't affect my content, I would say this stuff anyway, but the public should, again, we want more transparency in our political media ecosystem.
And I think this is sort of where there's a couple of broader themes that your article really touches on, in the discussions that it has kicked off are an example of the fact that we actually need to be having these conversations. And I think one of them is this line between what is an influencer, right? The question of like, and you as someone who's written about it, it's like, it's very, I'm assuming, nebulous, but that I think that, I would not call myself a journalist personally. I have been a journalist before. I'm more of a correspondent. I'm more of like a producer, and certainly a podcast host and a comedian. I try to be accurate. I am upfront, but I wouldn't call myself a journalist. I definitely wouldn't call myself an influencer, but I think we are also in this age where those things are collapsing. And so what's interesting is I would also not call an influencer. However, you are someone with an online platform that's huge, and you've got a growing YouTube channel, and and so you have.
I also started independent blogging, and I've written so much about these tensions. By the way, especially when it comes to news content creators.
Yes, and so that's what I think is sort of this like the nebulous kind of like area that probably is part of why you're receiving hate, and is also probably why these kinds of funds are choosing influencers who aren't actually journalists, right? These are not independent journalists. They are, they're maybe hot take machines, or they're funny, or whatever they're doing. I'm not saying they're not bringing added value. I did want to go back to what you said, because, from some limited folks I've spoken to, it seems like they said, well, Chorus didn't tell us what to say. And this has been another sort of sticking point, is what did Chorus have control over or not? And in one of the, posted contracts, as you mentioned, this creator puts up the contract, and in it says that they must disclose to the Chorus newsroom personnel any engagements with government officials or others on topics related to Chorus's policy agenda.
Okay, now disclosing engagement doesn't mean that you can't talk to somebody. or you can't do this. It's just like, yo, if you're going to use my living room, just let me know. I'm not going to say you can't fight your girlfriend to have conversations or whatever you want to do. Just let me know she's there so that I know not to come downstairs. You know what I mean? Or just let me know there's somebody in the meeting room so it doesn't cross and somebody else wants to be in the meeting room. Now you got two different. You know what I mean? I feel like it's more professional. I feel like that's actually how it's supposed to happen or supposed to work. Maybe I don't know, when's the last time they actually...
That the contractor arranges through other means. In other words, kind of, if you're going to interface with politicians, that's got to come through us. And they, in fact, had set up a whole newsroom where you have, politicians who can come and be interviewed by chorus participants. It all sounds cool. It brings me to sort of a third point, but right there, you sort of see that, like, okay, if you were talking about broadly policy agendas, they have to be in line with chorus. And if you're interviewing politicians, you kind of got to vet them through chorus. I think there's...
Yeah, but okay, okay, I guess the question I would have is, what is broadly aligned with chorus? Like, what are their political views, period? Like, is that the transparency that they're asking for? Because the content creators that are in here, their audience already knows what their points are. And they'll be able to see whatever you say it, the major change, if there is change to their actual tone, ever since joining chorus. But I don't know. I just don't, the more and more I hear it, the more and more it just doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't fucking matter.
There's differing opinion on, from what I've heard, the extent to which they actually did that. Like, maybe they didn't get every piece of content, vetted by chorus, or, like, there wasn't a lot of
well, the creators can speak
punishment.
Well, they can say all day there wasn't enforcement of it, whatever. I think that it's funny that you bring up that video, because that girl in the video is claiming that she's sort of debunking, and then she puts the actual language of the contract on screen behind her, which confirms our exact reporting on it. So it's very funny every time they share these things.
No, the reporting you're stating is that chorus has direct influence on what these creators can talk about. Her article or the shit that she puts up does not disclose that. I don't get that. This is why people don't like journalism and don't trust journalists, because we don't know if we should, one, believe you, or if you're just trying to create a hit piece, or if there's some kind of malign interest in it. And I'm honestly thinking that that's
like, it confirms more of our reporting. Listen, when these creators say, like, I wasn't punished, there wasn't enforcement on this. Okay, I mean, they're a month, 2 months into the program, they could totally be telling the truth, right? But I think that the point is that they signed a contract agreeing to specific terms, and contracts are theoretically enforceable, right? And we don't know, like, how this program would have played out a year from now, 2 years from now. If this is all undisclosed, we don't know. Like, this is why.
So she doesn't have proof that that's been the case, but this is what everybody's running with, and she's allowing people to run with it, although there's no proof that this is the case. Yeah, I can see why they stopped talking about it, because it's like, what's the fucking point of engaging with you? Like, at this point, the damage has already been done. If that's what you wanted. Transparency, my fucking ass. I feel like this is about Gaza. Because the comment section is very fucking telling. Their comment sections are like fucking infested with, why aren't you talking about Gaza? Talk about Israel. Blah, 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 yakety smackety. My thing to Palestinian, pro-Palestinians in the West, I don't think you're doing Gaza any justice by consistently pounding on people's head that they have to talk about Gaza. You have to stop doing that. What's going on in Gaza is a genocide. The Palestinian people are being genocided right now by the Israeli government. But here's the other problem that we're running into. While that's happening, there's still a lot of shit that's happening here in the States. So while we can acknowledge that, and somebody's stance can be this, you're going to have to go back to see that person's stance. This person has moved on so they can talk about the injustices happening on American soil, which is their main content. They really talk about it because here's the thing. Immigration is a problem here. And it's not just the immigration, it's the ethics of ICE. We got masked men running around the fucking country, yanking people off the streets for political opinions, but just because they look like they could be undocumented. As a matter of fact, they're yanking people off the streets, violating the First Amendment, because they say free Palestine, or they criticize the Israeli government. So I just want to be very, very fucking clear. Just want to say again, like, what's happening in Israel or in Gaza is a genocide. But people who are pro-Palestine and want to speak out are being arrested for their freedom of speech. One person was even sent to a weird-ass prison in Louisiana. A woman was kidnapped off the fucking streets because of her opinion against Israel. Somebody's degree, I believe, was taken because of their, or they weren't able to walk the stage because of their political opinions. There's been schools that had their funding frozen, and schools that's been bullied to bend the knee to stop students from practicing their First Amendment right because of Gaza. So there are First Amendment rights being violated here in America. There are inhumane methods of mass deportation happening in America. The President of the United States is single-handedly fucking the economy. The President of the United States is single-handedly making the United States probably the most hated, most untrustworthy nation in the world. There is a lot going on. Not to mention the fucking fact that he's calling random ass states populated, random ass cities populated by black people killing grounds. So there's a lot of things that we have to focus on. It's not just Gaza. And I feel like was a lot of people's after the election, I feel like this was the biggest beef between some people on the left who had disdain for people who say pro-Palestine. Because whether you want to agree with it or not, there were people out there who did say, don't vote for Kamala Harris because she's an extension of the Biden administration, and they didn't like how the Biden administration was dealing with Gaza and Israel. Don't vote for Donald Trump because XYZ, or vote for third party, or vote for Donald Trump. So now you got what you wanted. The Biden administration, or the remnants of the Biden administration, is no longer in office. You made people waste their votes. And you also allowed, and I'm not saying that even if those votes were to win our way, that Kamala Harris still wins, but I'm saying now we allowed this guy in here that wants to turn Gaza into a resort, or is telling Israel, just get the job done, guys. It's looking like that. It's bad PR at this point. Just get the job done. So while it's important to remember that there is a genocide going, there are also thousands upon thousands of content creators on every platform that's talking about this. Go support them. Go subscribe to them. Go boost them. That's the point of Chorus. If you don't like what Chorus is doing by getting funded by dark money, you go do it. You go and you show a generic version. But if you can't do that and you're just angry because, one, you only want to talk about Gaza, or you're mad that somebody's getting paid to talk about issues or political issues, I don't know what to tell you. You're the problem. You're going to make people eventually not want to talk about Gaza, period. You're going to make people avoid it like the plague. Because if they remotely get you to listen because you said one thing about the genocide in Gaza, now for the next 2 years, you have to talk about it every day. I don't think you guys understand how detrimental you're actually being to the cause. I don't understand it. And it's disheartening.
I'm advocating for more transparency, because if you don't disclose anything and then say they do start enforcing things, like it's eroding trust in our political system. So we nowhere in our article do we say and they're given sentences to read on camera. No. But exactly that part that you just read, right, where it says in line with Chorus's agenda or whatever. I asked Chorus, I sent Chorus multiple requests for comment. I said what is your policy agenda? What do you because it's some of that language is quite vague, and you could see how these creators could interpret it different ways. And again, I also just want to say that we spoke.
What is it? Just tell us what it is right now.
To multiple content creators within this very program. I know that they've been very loud online, many of them, but we got this, we heard from people in this program prior to publication. So we're also reflecting how they interpreted, these contracts.
Sure. I did actually, there's two questions I have. One of them, I want to talk about sort of this question of dark money in general, and I also want to talk about the personal attacks. And I need to play this, I apologize, this little piece from Brian Tyler Cohen, who is one of the co-founders of Chorus, who opens a video responding to your article, calling you an internet troll, openly, saying at risk of giving an internet troll more cred or more shine or whatever. And then he says this.
And in fact, it becomes clear who her efforts help when you hear stuff like this.
Genuinely, I kind of like Taylor Lorenz because I know that she actually believes what she says. You get what I'm saying?
So yeah, I generally don't align myself with friends of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. I continue to believe that the left needs massive investments into the independent media space.
Are you friends with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens because they like
First of all,
that you seem genuine?
They're making fun of me in that clip. They're making fun of me with the fact that I still believe in COVID. By the way, we're in an ongoing pandemic and COVID is surging again right now. Everyone should be wearing a mask. And that's what they're making fun of in that clip. They're not like, we love Taylor. She's our friend. We hang out with her. I've never met, actually I met Tucker once and he wanted to take a picture with me to make fun of me. Tucker Carlson is responsible for my parents being driven out of their home in the middle of the night because on the Trump administration. It's very silly and it's intentionally bad faith. And I think it's extra egregious because I have suffered the exact same type of smear campaign that Brian Tyler Cohen and his little buddies are running on me right now to discredit me and call me a liar and all of this stuff and cause a lot of material harm to me. I have dealt with that from the right for years.
Oh, boo. Boo. This is...
And it's so gross to see them leverage the exact MAGA playbook.
But I did want to ask, because I do think that the reaction can often be more revelatory. And as someone, and I'm going to be 100%, when I read the article, I was like, this is a story. But also I thought, there was that fear part of me, which was like, oh no, what's the impact on this? Don't we need, incubator programs? And yes, fight fire with fire. And then I saw some of the reactions of people who have not been open about being in the program, but who I clearly know were in the program because of their reaction. And then things like this, calling you an internet troll, saying that because Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson's yes, we're mockingly saying they liked you, that somehow.
No, I think she's one of those people this is not only to Francesca. Hey, for me, it literally is just Taylor Lorenz. I'm not gonna call that racist face. I feel like these are the type of individuals that whether or not they think they're working for the right or whether or not they think they're doing something nice or doing something for the greater cause, you're actually just being a detriment. But there's nothing I can say about it that's gonna make people understand it. So basically, at this point. I honestly, it's glad to see that David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen are just still making videos instead of letting this bullshit get to them. And I gotta look at Chorus to see the other content creators so I can follow them as well, because this is not going to help them. This is only going to harm the ones that tried to use it as an up and coming. But I mean, if if I'm pretty sure Unfuck America Tour is next on her list. So